Hey everyone, just wanted to share my thoughts a little bit more about FatCake. I think it was about 4 days ago, I did a video somewhere around then on FatCake and why I'm so bullish. And if you look at the chart, I did the video literally right here at this low. If you can see my cursor here, at about four times less than it is now, the price right now. It actually went higher than that. And you might think, well, it was a bit of luck to be able to call it there. Really, it's just a combination of fundamentals. I mean, which are super basic fundamentals, because you can see here that this is, lining up with the all-time low, other than the first day launch and the pre-sale price. And this is pretty much the all-time low here the other day. Plus, though, that I don't, it doesn't stop there. It's plus fundamentals, like what's going on, what are they developing, and then I would also say plus social behavior, criteria, like being able to know like how buyers buy in this market, particularly in the not just crypto but Binance Smart Chain. We call it the crypto pre-sale strategy, and we have a free class. I'll put a link below that just kind of outlines what I mean by that, like the social behavior, but things that are kind of obvious to a lot of you that have been doing this a while that allow you to predict what's going to happen. Like, for example, how committed are the founders or the devs behind the project at communicating with their audience? And how are they communicating? Are they respectful in that communication? Is it inspiring? Is it uplifting? Or sometimes you see this negative communication coming from devs and owners. That's a bad sign. So that's one thing. Also, a commitment to development. What are they developing? Are they making that an emphasis? Is it all just hype? Like, all of these things are predictors, and they're predictors in pre-sales. We really predict these pre-sales in our Discord, but it's also, these things are predictors with what's going to happen in a case like this. When you see a project that's very early, like if we look at the date that this launched, July 28th, right? So not that long ago, what, 2 weeks ago? And then you see it come down to a low like this, and it didn't really pump that high as other relatively similar tokens. And then you see it come to an all-time low like that, but you see it meeting these other criteria that, again, I call the crypto pre-sales criteria. It's basically social behavior and knowing what kinds of things you need to see from the project to see these things do really well, not only last the test of time, but get to those higher highs. When you see it hit a low, but they're doing all the right things, like, it's not rocket science, and it's really simple and basic. But I think a lot of people out there, they just think it's like luck or something, and they're not looking for patterns and things that are kind of obvious indicators of what's going to happen next. I went over that in another video, and if you want to catch that video, I talk about that fat cake, why I'm so bullish. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper today and compare this to, compare the market cap, which is only 2.7 million still. You might see that it went up here and go, oh, I missed it. I mean, not at all. 2.7 million market cap is extremely low with where this token's at. So I wanted to compare that to like Coin that came out, that's at 9.6 million. And look, it's even at a low. So it was like way higher than that, over 5 times higher than that, like a 50 million market cap. And it's a BNB rewards token, not a cake rewards token like FatCake is. But again, when you're comparing market caps and you're looking at these coins that launched 2 days before FatCake did, basically the same age, it kind of gives you an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm making these comparisons. And I'm saying, look, this 2.7 million that's never really pumped much at all has so much room for so much growth. And so I want to talk about that. I'm going to make other comparisons as well, like to BabyCake, which right now is sitting at a $32 million market cap. And then we can look at Kitty Cake. We're going to talk about that. There's been some drama and stuff. I'm not going to get into that. I might just reference it. But, this one went way up to, I think, 17 times what it is right now. I don't know what that market cap would have made it, but way over 12 million, 15 million. I don't know what it was, but it much, much higher than Fat Cake got to. So I'm going to make these comparisons. I'm also going to talk about the holders. You can see the holders on BSC scan, very low number of holders in Fat Cake in comparison to Coin, which again is a BNB rewards token, but still the comparison helps you kind of figure out what's going to happen next when you look at some of these other fundamentals and these social behaviors. Like I talked about, these indicators that the devs and the owners behind these projects, if they're doing the right things, you can kind of anticipate what's going on. So I'm going to break all this down. You look at BabyCake, $55,000 holders. Kitty Cake has a lot of holders, 6,000, 3 times as many as Fat Cake, which is only sitting right now at 2,300 holders. Now, I know a lot of people, now check this out. A lot of people out there are like looking at these things and they'll look and go, oh, they only have a low number of holders. Something must be wrong. Like this is how you are never going to make a lot of money in early crypto projects if you think like that. That is not the right kind of thinking. Someone else might think, oh, they have a lower market cap. They didn't do as well as Coin that got up to 50 million market cap and right now is sitting at 9 million, or BabyCake that I don't know if they got to 100 million already, but they certainly got really high. They're sitting at 32 million right now and it's down from much higher. And you might be looking at that or looking at BabyCake, a cake rewards token as well, and say, oh, they had first movers advantage. They were one of the first. Everyone else is a copycat. And look, they have 56, almost 56,000 holders, got to a much higher market cap. Why would I be looking at FatCake with a much lower market cap? They must be doing something wrong. That's really backwards thinking if you're going to make a lot of money in this market. And the reason why that's backwards thinking and is the opposite of how you want to be thinking is because you're measuring things after it's obvious they were successful, and you're not looking for indicators of what's going to be majorly successful next. Obviously you want to get in front of the price action. So when I made my video, is just an example of that. When I made my video the other day and I literally called it and bought a lot more right here at this price at 775, and it did like 5x from there. Now it's down, of course there's going to be a little bit of a selling when it goes up that much. Now it's sitting at about 4x when I made that video, and you can go check out that video that I made a few days ago, FatCake, Why I'm So Bullish. That wasn't luck. Now, some people think, oh, when you made that video is what made it pump. I mean, it may have been a slight catalyst potentially, but only because it was the right time. And I don't even know if it had any impact on the price at all, but it certainly wouldn't have had that big of a price impact, not at all. It was because the timing was right with the price, but with the fundamentals and with all the types of things that I'm talking about, I'll talk more about today, that allows you to get in front of price movement. So when I see 2.7 million market cap, for example, and when I see 2,300 holders, for example, and I compare that to BabyCake that has a $32 million market cap and already has 55,000 holders, I look at this the opposite of how most people in the market look at it. I see that as opportunity. That's how you get in front of what's going to happen next. And then you look at other things. Things that I talked about already, I'll reference today, but I talked about extensively in FatCake, Why I'm So Bullish. Things like I started to reference today about, are they developing stuff? Are they communicating well? Very basic, simple stuff that allows you to anticipate what's going to happen next. So someone might say, well, this is already pumped. I'm going to wait for the price to come down. Now you're that's fine, but you're risking things, right? Because if it does pump up to a new bottom floor, then you miss that opportunity. So you have to start to, you have to compare your decision making. If you're more of a decision maker based on, the fundamentals and where the price action's at, and you're saying, okay, let's see if this comes down maybe to this price level here first, and then I might buy. What I'm proposing is you also factor in market cap size, comparison to other market cap sizes of other projects that are relatively similar, and realize that you're taking a lot of risk if you're only basing your decisions on technicals alone, and that's it. And you're not taking into account some of these other things that I'm talking about. So, specifically, is this a low price or a high price? 2.7 million compared to everything else that we're seeing in the marketplace. It's a low price. That's just a fact. If you make these comparisons, I'm going to talk about this. So let's dig in and analyze. So this chart here, again, that we've been looking at is the FatCake chart. We compare that to Coin, compare it to BabyCake, we compare it to Kitty Cake, and we can see very quickly that while it had a little bit of a pump on the first day of launch, which you could just call launch day, it's not that far from where it sits right now. Okay. You also see that when it went down to its all-time low, it immediately shot back up, telling you there were a bunch of people that weren't able to assess the value of this. And as soon as it shucked them out, those that understood the value of it brought it right back up close to its launch day high. I mean, in fact, it went above this second spike, which was one day after the launch. You could almost consider that as part of the launch, and it went up and touched that. That's pretty remarkable. It shows how strong it is. Okay, so you might be asking, why did it not go much higher early? Again, I don't think that's the right line of questioning to go too far with, because you really want to find projects that didn't go too high early, or you're not going to catch very many of them, or you're going to get stuck in a lot of pump and dumps and be stuck a lot in the dumps. So while we want to look at maybe the question, why didn't it go higher? You actually want to find projects with low market caps that are meeting the crypto pre-sale criteria, the social behavior criteria that allow you to anticipate that these are going to go up. You actually want to find projects that meet the criteria you're looking for, that have low market caps, that didn't go that high yet. So keep that in mind, that the fact that they didn't go high yet, if you find one that didn't, that meets those other criteria, low market cap, doing everything else right, that's actually what you're looking for. But let's go ahead and entertain the question, why didn't it pump high yet? I think there's one little clue here on their Twitter account when they posted, our social DApp was fully funded and in development for a while. And they're referring to Frosting Social. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But here's the point of maybe why it didn't pump yet, and why this is all good news for anyone looking for what's big that's going to happen next, that doesn't have as much risk as a pre-sale or an early project, which, there's all kinds of shenanigans that can go on there, and it's really hard to predict what's going on or what the dev's all about, et cetera. So our social DEP was fully funded in the development for a while, when the team does not have to rely or stress about the FatCake token price in order to deliver on promises. It's a very beautiful thing. Could this be why we recently had a new all-time high closing price? Thoughts? And they posted this 11 hours ago, and I'm doing this video on Saturday, August 14th. So what they're saying is they've been developing this social app for a while, and they didn't need to raise the funding to finish it. And so they've never, what that clues you in on is potentially they haven't put as much emphasis on marketing yet, because they're waiting to get everything in place, and they're really confident that they've got the funds and the ability to launch the feature project, which is this Frosting Social, that it's gonna create demand for the token and everything. And so they're building this in a more organic way. And my understanding, this is gonna be out in about a month. So we're not talking about waiting a long time to see this. So they're probably building momentum up to that point. I think that's a very good clue as to why they might not be coming out with, let's say, as much of a emphasis like BabyCake did on like hype. And I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, often we like to see that when we're in these projects. Just for full disclosure, I profited big time on BabyCake. I found out about this one in our Discord very early in the pre-sale. I ended up buying a lot more right here, and I made a small fortune. I then moved that, full disclosure, into Kitty, a fortune that I made, and I got in right around here. And again, this isn't luck, guys. These are predictors, and a lot of this was based on the hype predictors that the devs were communicating that are meeting our crypto pre-sale criteria that helps us anticipate social buying behavior. I'll put a free class link below. Pretty basic stuff. It's incredible how simple this stuff is to predict, really, and caught this one up to near the top. I did what I call a rip. I ripped out of that one too. It means I recouped investment, I profited. I didn't leave in free tokens because I wasn't really confident in the longevity of the project. And more so, I saw FatCake come out and I got in on it early. And again, on the first day. And I ended up buying, by the way, a lot more than I ever had bought right here at this low just a few days ago. Put a video out at the same time, and again, this isn't luck, guys. The crypto pre-sale strategy criteria, extremely predictable. I've already mentioned several of the key predictors, which I consider predictors of social buying behavior. I'm also looking at the fundamentals, the fact that which is part of the crypto pre-sale strategy, but a big part of it, which is, are they developing something of utility? If I'm going to leave in tokens or I'm going to buy more, that's extremely important. And that's why, and then why I ultimately ended up here was BabyCake's market cap went too high. It's just too challenging for them to 10x when they were up here. It's, I don't know how close they were to 100 million market cap, but they were way over 50 million. It's way more challenging and way more improbable that in the short run, and I even mean within the next 6 months, that an organization that's at 50 million market cap or 100 million market cap is going to 10x or 100x as comparison to a new project that's doing all the right things, but just simply hasn't emphasized hype, hasn't emphasized marketing yet because they're putting other things in place first. And so they got a lower market cap. I mean, to go from 2.7 million market cap to 27 million market cap, they'll still be lower than BabyCake at that time. And that's a 10x right there. So for them to 100x, much more probable than BabyCake 100xing from here. That's okay if you disagree. And if you do, go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I mean, this is all just my observations. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not recommending that you buy any of these tokens. I'm not recommending you do anything that we're doing. I'm just sharing with you my opinions, my observations. If you're looking for actual investment advice, then you should hire a financial advisor. So let's look at the BabyCake chart a little bit more closely. You know, we got into it really early down here. And again, I'm already all the way out on it and fully into FatCake because of the market cap difference mainly. I see very many similarities between these two projects. It's just FatCake is focused less on marketing out of the gate. I see that as a good thing, while the rest of the market, most of which don't make nearly as much returns as I do on these projects, don't see it as a positive. They think that it's a positive to be in BabyCake because it has a higher market cap, because it has more holders. But I simply see it as the opposite. I think, you know, when you look at the video that I made the other day and you look at the price action that happened since then, you start to realize it's about predicting what's going to happen, you know, upward next, not judging these projects on what already has pumped, right? Not looking at these projects already at how many holders they have, you know, looking for a high number, looking at a FatCake here. I'm looking for a low number, you know, because I want to get in front of what's going to happen next. Doesn't that just make sense? Looking at BabyCake's chart, we see that, you know, it did this massive pump. When did it launch? Let me scroll up here. It launched on the 17th. So it's got 10, almost 2 weeks on FatCake. So it's ahead in many ways. And I'm going to come back and kind of show that comparison. But other than that 2 week advantage, and other than them focusing more on, I don't mean it in a bad way, on the hype, on the marketing side early, pumping up that price, that's really the only difference. Their market cap should be relatively the same otherwise. And it's only a matter of time, in my opinion, that FatCake's market cap will catch up and potentially surpass BabyCake. Although I think that they're really neck and neck on in many ways. So I really see it as they should have the same market cap, and I believe that they will at some point. It's just that one is much lower right now and gives you the much, you know, bigger advantage, FatCake, in seeing a 10x or 100x. Again, if you disagree, share with me exactly why in a short couple sentences or even a paragraph or two down below in the comment section. I know there's plenty of room for lots of successful cake rewards, but again, I like to find the low market caps, low number of holders, and it's easy to see why and to know what's coming next in terms of a price going 10x, 100x. And I believe that to be FatCake in the cake rewards token market. Okay, so looking at this, we see that it came in at, look at this. I mean, man, I mean, that's such a low number. And of course, very few people could come in there. I think I got in somewhere down here. It might even have been around here on a BabyCake. No, it was definitely the first day. So I got in somewhere here on the 17th, very low. Let's just say it was here in the middle, somewhere around 4. And then I started selling some of them, although, you know, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And then I finally was out of them. So when I first made the sell, I left some free tokens in. And I didn't know Kitty Cake was coming yet. I didn't know FatCake was coming yet. And I knew it was a good project. But as it continued to climb, it was just so ridiculous in terms of the returns. I ended up selling them all out. And my last sell was because I put it right into, like I said, Kitty Cake, which basically did the exact same thing. Then I ended up in FatCake. So, you know, I've basically disclosed by now the reasons why I ended up in FatCake. You know, that I'm basically looking for the lowest market cap, highest probability for growth based on what I'm seeing from the dev, the owner, and the team in terms of communication, commitment to development, and how they're developing, how well they're developing in comparison to the other projects. So let's just jump in now to look at, you know, the development side and the project. If you go to FatCake's site, and I'll put a link directly below, you see they're putting a big emphasis on frosting social. And it's saying subscribe and connect with your favorite creators. Send anonymous donations and hold FatCake tokens for free access. And it says coming soon. So this is what they've been working on. This is what the emphasis is. This is what's going to drive up demand for the FatCake token and create utility. And it's just one of many things that are going on. I'll touch upon some others, but this is a big one. And it's supposed to be out in about a month. Now we're going to do an AMA with the owner here pretty soon, who is fully doxed, similar to BabyCake. And I want to I want to make this comparison without going too deep into what those projects are, so I can make the bigger comparison, which is really all a person would need to know to be able to anticipate like what's going to happen next, and compare this to BabyCake's roadmap. So, and compare that to uh, FatCake's roadmap, which is almost the same. That's what I'm saying from an investment perspective. And if you've got different perspectives on this, share it in the comments. I'd love to analyze and make that comparison. But like this app is an important part of the Fat Cake launch, and BabyCake also has an app on the way. And if you look in their roadmap, I don't see them talking about it as much and making it as much of an emphasis. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can, I'm not studying them as much anymore since I ripped on out of there, since I sold everything with those profits. But maybe some of you that have followed it more closely can correct me in the comments below and let me know how much is BabyCake talking about this kind of stuff. But they have, on their roadmap, BabyCake AR gaming app. I don't know exactly what that is. Obviously, gaming can be a big thing. And I would guess that that's going to create demand for the token. And then there's BabyCake Swap, BabyCake merchant shop, building NFT platform. So these are some things that show that they're committed to continued development. A lot of these other things are specific to marketing, and that's really where they put their emphasis. So far it appears, and building their infrastructure and stuff. They've been adding on new people on the team and stuff, and that's really exciting and really treating it professionally and seriously. And I think that's helped the public have more confidence to invest into them. But to make, to look at the solid stuff, the biggest things here are they're developing this AR gaming app, and they're developing BabyCake Swap. That's and an NFT platform. So then when we look at FatCake, we see they're developing a social app, which they're claiming they've been working on for a long time. And based on how little they've emphasized marketing so far and how much in their conversation and dialogue they've focused on this in their Telegram group, I think we can believe that this is really what they've been focused on more than marketing, just by watching what they've been doing. It's yet to be seen how soon they can develop it and get it out. They say in about a month, because they've already been developing it for some time. But one other thing I wanted to show you is the roadmap itself. Less emphasis on marketing in the early stages, and they have talked in the Telegram group about how that's going to come a little bit later, to the degree that people usually expect to see it early on. I see that as a positive. But you're also going to notice they got Fat Swap coming. So, kind of like BabyCake has a swap coming, and then they say FatCake merch and goodies. So you're seeing a lot of similarities in terms of having a utility, having like a Fat Swap, and BabyCake had, what did they call theirs? BabyCake Swap. Now, some people might say, well, BabyCake was first movers advantage. Everyone else is a copycat. FatCake is a copycat. It just doesn't mean that much in and of itself. In fact, if you look at Yahoo and you compare it to Google, Yahoo had first movers advantage, and so did a lot of other search engines that you don't hear of anymore. And then Google came in and they call it second movers advantage. Google wasn't actually second literally, but it's a term to describe, that they came after in the wave after Yahoo and a bunch of other search engines, AOL and a bunch of others that we don't hear of anymore. I can't even remember. There's some just on the tip of my tongue that used to exist that don't exist anymore. Some of you older folks remember. First movers advantage isn't always the big deal. There's got to be other stuff, and what we're focusing on is that other stuff. Now, I am seeing that BabyCake is putting the infrastructure together. They're putting the team together. They are ahead in many ways right now in terms of building their team, certainly on the marketing and having a bigger market reach right now than, let's say, FatCake. However, when you look at Yahoo at one time was way ahead of the game in those same areas than Google. So it's just not a predictor of what's going to happen long term. I actually think both of these cake reward tokens are going to do very well. All I'm pointing out is the similarity, the incredible similarity, acknowledging what BabyCake has maybe emphasized first, but that these are incredibly similar in terms of what they're doing, the path that they're on, and from an investment perspective, the types of things they're creating. Now, we can only see over time who creates better, which utility has a bigger impact. And that's what's exciting about all of this, right? But just at face value, you look at what they got right now, you dig a little bit deeper on those important points that I've made, and you really got to, come to the conclusion that there's a lot of similarities to what these two have. And just because, if you look at Yahoo and Google, just because one's first, it just doesn't mean anything. So what we come back to when we figure all that out is when you look at a $2.7 million market cap and you see how similar these projects are, and you see that the market has priced this one right now at 32 million and had it as high as, I don't know if it got to 100 million. I'm not ready to do the math right now, but I think it was close to 100 million, certainly way over 50 million, somewhere in between 50 and 100 if it didn't reach 100 million. It really doesn't matter. It was high. And so we know, and right now it's high, 32 million. And you got to ask yourself, and this is just how I think, and again, that's what the kind of thinking that led me to this video the other day that allowed me to say right here at this low point, I can predict that now is a very fancy time to be coming in, and I put a lot in right there. And it's not luck. I mean, this is happening over and over and over again inside our community, and I'm not the only one. And I just wanted to share and pass on with you the kind of thinking that we follow that allows us to predict these so well, these projects early in the Binance Smart Chain. This is not financial advice. I'm not recommending that you purchase FatCake. I am not a financial advisor, so I can't make that recommendation legally, but I can share with you my observations, my experiences, and my opinions. And, I can ask you to do your own research, hire a financial advisor if you need help making decisions, but to consider some of these obvious facts, like everything that I covered, and then put the cherry on top of this conversation, which is 2.7 million market cap in comparison to a $32 million market cap. If the other conclusions and the opinions I've shared with you are accurate, and I shared a lot of facts that really are undebatable about how similar these projects are, but it's up to you to decide if you agree if this one has a much more room to get to a 10x or 100x, a much easier time to do that as compared to a market cap that's much, much higher. But all things considered, at this time, pretty much very similar, apples to apples comparison, as close as you can get in terms of what they're offering in the marketplace. So that's how I approach these things. That's how I predict these things. And it's been working out very, very well. I will make one more point that I forgot to bring up, and just to finish off the comparison. If you go to FatCake, they were later they're later in developing these things because they're 2 weeks later in developing their project. But if you go, they recently released their dashboard, whereas BabyCake had their dashboard out a lot sooner, that shows you like your rewards and everything. And this is just one of our family accounts. But, I can also point out that the rewards are paying very, very, very well. Here you see 272 cake received. Now, obviously that's relative to how much I put in, and don't ask me how much I put in. It's not about that, because everyone will have the same proportionate returns with the cake rewards based on what they put in, and obviously if you put in more, you get more. I just wanted to make the point that I've followed a lot of other rewards token projects and put in similar sums, and it's all based on volume, of course, and what percentage they're paying out. But I just wanted to mention I couldn't but notice that these have been paying out very, very well. And that's the other advantage to getting into a project earlier with a lower market cap before it has a lot of holders, like FatCake only having 2,300 so far, because as it expands, as it gets to 23,000 holders, for example, or if it gets as high as BabyCake, and there's no reason why it wouldn't, let's say 55,000, 56,000 holders, that's a lot of volume. And that's a lot of rewards. That's another reason why I always like to end up in the project with the lowest market cap, with the highest potential to be able to compete with the projects that are at the highest market cap, because you get so many rewards. But anyway, they've done a great job of developing this. They are a couple weeks behind because they were out later. But when we look at that comparison between Yahoo and Google, Yahoo having the first mover's advantage, Google having the second mover's advantage, we know that it doesn't really mean anything in terms of who's going to win out in the end. I do think there's room for both of these projects to do very, very well, short-term and long-term. I think there's plenty of room for lots of cake rewards tokens. But of course, time will tell who develops a better utility that people get excited about, all those things. But right now with where they're at, they're very close. I think they're neck and neck in many ways for the reasons that I just shared with you. The only difference being one of them has a really high market cap, one of them doesn't. Most of the market that's not good at assessing value, most of the market is not good at getting in front of like what happened right here. Like to me, it was just so obvious. And I just wanted to pass on how I kind of come to these conclusions and make these predictions over and over again. Not always 100% right, but some of them are obvious. This one is obvious. It was obvious here the other day when it was down at this low price and it shot up. And it's obvious right now to me when you make the comparison between what these projects are doing, how similar they are right now, and how one is priced much lower than the other and has much lower holders. I see that as a major positive when the rest of the market sees that as a negative. And I just, they're doing the opposite. And that's why most of the market doesn't do very well. So anyway, those are my observations. I just wanted to pass them along, and I wish you luck out there with your investments. We'll see you soon.